year already. I would kindly like to introduce Professor Beryl Haar, who is head of the Center for International and European Labor Law Studies at the University of Warsaw in Poland. And Beryl will make some conclusions for us today. Beryl, you have the floor.
Thank you very much. Thank you also for having me and giving me the honorable task of making some conclusions. I would like to start with first a huge compliment to the whole team. Like building such an index, all the work that's in it, as we have heard, it's really, I think it's amazing. And it's a huge work and it looks really great, well done and very thoroughly researched and built. So first of all, I want to say this and stress this, it's really an amazing job that has been done. And I'm pretty impressed by it. And I think like I've been listening to all the speakers and I made some links. So for example, if you look at this index, labor rights index, hearing David Plink speak about like all the things that are going on in our lives, in our working lives, the things that we need to think about, that we are being confronted with, and it's really a lot, and it's easy to get lost in. And of course, as researchers, as he also showed in his presentation, we can make a bit of ordering of this. He uses this pyramid of Maslow for it. Which is nice. It's good for us as researchers, for leaders, for business representatives, for trade unionists. We kind of can work with it, understand with it. But then how to translate this also, like, for example, for ordinary workers? How do they understand from this what is actually their rights? What are the issues with certain rights? You cannot get this from this kind of ordering. And I think this index is actually giving that kind of ordering. And that's really nice and an added value that we haven't seen in any of the other indexes or works or comparative research that I know about. So it really translates information about labor rights that are super important to feel safe into words and information that is understandable, like for many people in a rather practical and pragmatic manner. So, for example, even for me, I'm a labor lawyer, but I'm also a migrant worker here in Poland. It's even for me, it was useful to just see like what kind of basic labor rights I'm actually entitled to or can get here. Because even though I'm trying to learn Polish, it's not an easy language. So even to read the law books by myself, it's not that easy, and to find them, etc. And here I can get a first access. So even for someone who's well trained, it's still very useful to get a first impression. And this is just only one function out of many, as we have heard also from Iftikhar. And it's just because of his ideals that has driven the index even further. So the list of uses is, emphasized uses is quite impressive: governments, multinational organizations, trade unions, etc. But there's one group missing here. And I would say it's also very useful for academic researchers. My brain is kind of itching to work with it, with the data, and to use it also with my students. Yeah, so I think you could add this to the list of uses as well. Of course, there exist kind of databases already that we labor lawyers, at least labor lawyers or researchers in labor law can use. For example, the one from Cambridge University that is developed by Simon Deacon, a very interesting one, very good database also. But it ends in 2013. There's no real update anymore, no follow-up. And things have changed. And as was also already shown in the presentation by Hina, laws change. So even in the 2 years, 2020 to 2022, we see already a change. So we're going to miss there. It's a bit outdated. But more importantly, If I want to work with that data, I have to know how to work with Excel and get all the information out of it myself. Here, the information is presented for me. So especially for lawyers who are kind of, well, not into numbers and working with complicated Excel sheets, this is super accessible and very useful. So I think you should add also academic researchers to the list for whom this is interesting information. Again, let me just express how impressive the work is that has been done, and listening to Hina Tariq made me only realize more like how much work has gone into it, how thoroughly it is done, and yeah, how you need to work as a team to actually get in the same mindset to do it very consistently and thoroughly as it has been done. So really super impressive. Then some points that came up in the panel that I made in some of my own notes before the meeting as well, that I would like to bring up again and maybe stress some things. So like one of the first remarks that was made, like it's really nice to show these labor rights and that we can see how it kind of develops. So, and clearly the data shows this. If we look at this heat map that has been mentioned a few times already, it jumps out instantly that countries that have a tradition in collective bargaining, social dialogue, persistently score higher on this index. It was mentioned already, we can see Europe kind of colors green and blue, and the rest of the world colors more orange and yellow with some exemptions in green. Let me see, yeah. So also the measuring of progress and in fact also regress. I checked on some of the countries. It's very clearly indicated plus points and minus points and where we can find those changes. And we've heard also some examples that Hina gave us. I can add to that also that I noticed that Poland dropped out of the level from decent work to approaching decent work. At the same time, I'm also a bit surprised, as was expressed by some others, that Poland is actually scoring 1 point higher than the Netherlands. And if I tell to people here in Poland that I moved from the Netherlands to here, they're all amazed because if you want to work, you go to the Netherlands, not to Poland. But if I look at the law in the books, I actually moved to Poland. I made the right move. So following the books, I think I did the right thing. Yeah, so it will be nice to keep following this, especially this change over the course of time. I think also for researchers that's important, but also motivational for those who are working on decent work, like Bart also expressed already. One little minor detail that the heat map itself may maybe not be that convenient for it. And if you really want to see progress, the coloring is in quite big steps of numbers. And I understand if you make it more refined, it becomes more difficult to read the map. But maybe then we end up in an Excel or something. It would also be nice to show it somehow in some smaller numbers and smaller steps so that you can see progress or regress a little bit more easy and a bit faster maybe. But it's just like wishful thinking. If you ask what to improve, what can we further do, I think it would be nice to somehow see this as well. What also was mentioned, some further tweaking of the indicators or keeping updating and developing them. This example of maternity issues, maybe more becoming part of equality law. I was checking, for example, how is paternity leave included, and it's not. It's also not under the family responsibilities, but it's definitely an upcoming topic. If we think from equal opportunities, equal treatment, then paternity leave is becoming just as important as maternity leave. So where to create space for that? Is it a family responsibility or should it go with equal treatment? So just for thoughts about it. Myself, I also had some more detailed further thoughts about occupational safety and health. One thing that I really kind of miss in the indicators given there is the involvement of workers' representation, or at least the option of workers to report things that are happening at the workplace. If you work with a machine that is dangerous or something broke and you want to report it or whatever, what kind of canals are there? And there's a lot of legislation that have like legal requirements for that. So I think that can be quite easily accessed in the same way as on the other indicators. And this, in this context, maybe also the access to the labor inspection. If an employer doesn't want to listen, is there means that you can stop to work and create a more safe environment? I think I'm slowly running out of time, but I just 2, 3 more small points. So something that was raised in the end of the panel, like what does the data really show? A surprise that Russia scores higher than the US. A surprise that Eastern Europe actually scores higher than Western part of Europe in general, more blue and to green. And I think there is an explanation for it. I think it's a correct reflection actually of the laws in the books and what applies for the standard employment relationship that Iftikhar also very clearly explained and showed in the beginning. I think it's an inheritance of this socialist past that has favored workers, and you still see it in the positive law. Whether it is applied or not, that's a different question. That's not how it is assessed. So I think it's really an accurate representation of what is in the law, whether we like it or not, and whether it goes against our feeling. It is what is in the books. But that does make it also important maybe to somehow, somewhere also give some attention to the law and practice, even though it's more complex. I've been checking already before the meeting if there's indexes, for example, about access to justice, and there's a few in development. The rule of law index of the World Bank could maybe also be of assistance here. So it's not necessary to do it yourself, but maybe to find some collaboration or indicate some links that you are aware of that also exists. So yeah, maybe there could be some developments here. And 2 last points. One thing that I was thinking, in a way, it's nice that all the rights are, or all the indicators are presented as equal. But there is a bit of a debate going on in labor law if maybe some rights are maybe not a little bit more important than other rights. And the one that I'm thinking about mostly is collective bargaining and social dialogue. Yes, it's a right for workers, but at the same time, it's also an enabling right. It's super important to get any of the other rights, most of the other rights. So should that not be also expressed somehow in the weighing of all the rights and the scoring? And the last point is about language. I haven't scanned the whole website, but my impression, everything is in English now. And I was wondering, so it's nice I speak English, but I know a lot of workers who actually do not know about the rights. And if we talk about access to rights, this database could be a tool in access to justice, because it gives workers also access to their rights and understanding their rights, but not if it's only in English. So I would consider maybe some options on trying to publish it also in the national languages. I have no idea what kind of work that will be, but that is my last point. Thanks again, and yeah, wonderful job done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Professor. Good news, we have all of the labor law information in national languages, in over 50 languages on the National Wage Indicator websites, who are also that they also have a legal basis, and they're also researched by the team in Pakistan. So that one is covered at least. That's very good. Thank you very much, Professor, for your nice words and reflections. I would actually like to close off the webinar now, because we started 5 minutes late and now we ended 5 minutes late, so we're all full in time.